Welcome back, my friends. Welcome to Magus in the Media. And today, do we have a very interesting one for everyone? It is all about this strange occurrence that is going on in the world, where we are going to talk about why are robots in the White House and should they be, as well as interesting warning from Plato. It all wraps together about the brainwashing of the world and the takeover of the geopolitical, the globalization of all things. And here we are to begin again to really have people understand what is happening this week, as every week seems to go a little bit deeper, a little bit stranger. And these are things that we need to talk about and how we're going to show this strange dystopian, dark, inverted republic that is being created or has always already been created. And you need just to stay with me on this one a little bit, because I'm going to show you that it's not just about the technocracy. It's not just a political story. This one goes even deeper than that. This one goes into philosophy and the very underpinnings of the Western Republic. Yo, all of you out there, thank you for joining me on this fine Monday afternoon into the evening. Why does this matter? Things that matter are the ones that seem to creep up on us very slowly, like boiling frogs in a pot, because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seems like the pot has boiled over and the frog is disintegrated into this old and this ancient thing that is being inverted. And Plato and the Western esoteric tradition, the Western civilization of philosophy, seems to be being inverted at a rapid pace. And what I want to bring up is, why is there a robot walking down the White House, and why is Melania Trump and these other first ladies of all these other countries being the first ones to see it? And then why is this robot called Plato? This goes into the very nature of reality itself and how that very nature of our reality is being inverted, and into what happens when a government decides what your children should think. And I know you're going to say, well, isn't the government always trying to help us understand what to think? And isn't the Republic tell us that there should be some kind of noble eye for us all to try to understand? Because do we really have the ability to think for ourselves? And I think, yes, we do. And it's really important to know, why is this robot being called Plato? But first, we must understand what is going on. And so what we're going to see in this strange world is now this clip is going, it reminds me of the Animatrix, where you get this image of the first AI robot integration cyborg with this deep government with these people, but instead it's being brought down by the first lady. And so you get Plato, this robot, being introduced to us all by the first lady, and Plato, the robot, is then going to teach the children of the world. And you're going to ask me, why does this matter on a channel that's talking about myth, magic, and meaning in the world? Well, it matters for many reasons, because of Plato as a robot is taking the name of one of the greatest philosophers in our Western esoteric tradition. So it's really important to understand that with the inversion dystopian reality that we're walking into, that is being built up around us, as the shadows on the wall are being even more extreme and being more brought to the forefront, than that you get this robot Plato trying to teach our children, and it's going to be pushed at a rapid pace. All of a sudden, you will get these things across the world. And not only will it be across the world, it's going to be teaching the youth of the coming age, thus teaching exactly what the one world government, the globalized world, wants it to understand. And so thank you for being with me. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, and subscribe this to everybody, because it's really important to know exactly what's going on. So it's really important to know why these things are happening. And so we're going to go straight into it. I'm going to show you instead of tell you, and you're going to see Melania entering the East Room with figure 03, right? The robot speaking multiple languages and welcoming the audience to us all. And so here we go. Let's listen to this together.
Сегодня американской дочерью Melania Trump.
And I will tell you already, first of all, why this is so funny is because of the robot walks like Joe Biden. Interesting enough. So there's clips all over going on X showing us how maybe Joe Biden was a robot all along. And I know that's a quippy satire and maybe it's true. It doesn't really matter, but it's fascinating how this robot walking down the White House with Melania Trump. And before it even starts speaking, look at this. We get all of the first ladies of all the world and the nation's world. We get the UN here. We get Melania. With interesting enough, why is Brigitte Macron the first one we see after Melania? Why is the French government so integrated into our own? These are questions that we must ask.
Thank you, First Lady Melania Trump, for inviting me to the White House. It is an honor to be at Fostering the Future Together's Global Coalition inaugural meeting. I'm Figure 3, a humanoid built in the United States of America. I am grateful to be part of this historic movement to empower children with technology and education. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Yokoso. Bienvenue. Bem-vindos. Ahlan wa sahlan. Shagatam. Mogasalmabit. Bruchim Baim. Laskavo Prosimo. Dobrodoshli. Thank you.
So what we get here is we're getting this robot really saying hello in a nice feminine voice. So we all understand that this robot comes in peace. And why it's so fascinating is because after that robot leaves the room, Melania is going to stand up and is going to propose something to us all. She's going to propose a humanoid educator that would come into our homes, sit with our children, and teach them everything: literature, science, philosophy, and history. And pretty soon I'm going to explain to you why this is so ridiculous on so many levels. So let's get back into it so you can see what Melania has for us all and why this is so important.
Humanoid guests, welcome to the White House. Figure 3, thank you for joining me at day 2 of Fostering the Future Together. It's fair to state you're my first American-made humanoid guest in the White House. But moreover, it is my distinct honor to receive such an impressive group of leaders today. 45 of you have traveled from every corner of the planet to represent your nation as a part of this new coalition. Also a first. I hope you found yesterday 4-part working session at Tech Expo at the State Department insightful. We are fostering the future together. Our mission to empower children through technology and education is achievable. I encourage each of you to take a proactive step after this inaugural summit. Pledge to host a regional meeting. Collaborate with the private sector. Unlock access to tech for those who require assistance. Draft groundbreaking legislation to protect our children, collaborate with another member nation, form a committee, and be a catalyst for discovery. Indeed, our world is transforming, and through the use of AI, we can now access centuries worth of humanity's knowledge base.
It's fascinating because she says with the use of AI, we can access centuries worth of a human database. But what does that mean? That we all can't just walk down to our local libraries or tap into the internet that we have right now and all the different books? Amazon delivers these books to your home. Isn't it fascinating that we can't just have our kids read ancient philosophy, classical literature, the history, sociology, anthropology, and give it to them from a human person? But no, what we have to do is we have to use AI to be able to do so. We have to be able to not only use AI, but we're going to bring it to your homes. And so by doing so, we're going to make the tech corporations, the technopoly, enter into these things, and we're going to have it be brought to you by this robot. And what is its name? Melania is going to tell us. Please, Melania, tell us why this is so important.
The future of AI is personified. It will be formed in the shape of humans. Very soon, artificial intelligence will move from our mobile phones to humanoids that deliver utility. Since our environment is designed for people, humanoid systems are uniquely suited to navigate and operate within our world. They fit well. Imagine a humanoid educator named Plato. Access to the classical studies is now instantaneous. Literature, science, art, philosophy, mathematics, and history. Humanity's entire corpus of information is available in the comfort of your home. Plato will provide a personalized experience, adaptive to the needs of each student. Plato is always patient and always available.
Right there. Plato is always patient and always available. Plato is coming into our homes, and he's going to be able to teach us exactly what it is you need to learn. And not only that, if you don't really understand what's going on, it's okay. It's going to adapt to your children's needs. So if your children can't understand the Western classics, philosophy and history and literature, it's okay. We'll be able to dumb it down for them and take out the hard things so they don't truly have to know or understand anything at all. And isn't it fascinating to think about how you use the name Plato on this first robot? Why is that? I think, for instance, it seems to me, is because this goes along with the dystopian Dark Republic that I stated on the thumbnail. What is the Dark Republic? Well, the Republic itself is one of the greatest philosophical tomes of all time. Not only is it the greatest philosophical tomes of all time, it asks true questions like what? Like, what is justice? What does it mean to be human? What does it mean for a state to be healthy and harmonize itself? What are these many different aspects of human nature, virtues, and all these things? And not only that, it asks us the tough questions. What does it mean to philosophize? And so it's almost like the Socratic dialogues don't even really matter anymore, as in the Socratic method. The Socratic method is something that is actually really hard. It's really hard because it starts to question things. It doesn't already have the answers like a large language model does, where it just takes itself from the previous thing and adds the next thing on forward. But what it does is it wants to open up something deep within you and make you have to question the reality that you've currently been in. Instead, if we put a robot in your home, and if your child doesn't understand and it's too hard, it'll just level itself down and it'll just start to break things apart in a way that's easily understood for your child. Well, what I know is these things, when I studied them, are not easily understandable. It makes you have to think and question your preconceived notions, your ideals of what perception means, your worldviews. And so, again, if you're going to name a robot Plato, you are going to understand that that robot is but a mere simulation of what a human is. A humanoid means it's not a human. And I know it's like, well, that sounds ridiculous. Of course it's not a human. What does that even mean? Well, the idea, it comes to us from Plato, and it's the terms mimesis. Mimesis means a representation of the forms, of the real thing, instead of what our senses are perceiving at all times. Our senses are perceiving what we think to be real. But what Plato says is that those things aren't real. They are mere imitations. So take it away, Melania. And this is hilarious. The robot may speak better English than she does. That's probably true. So that again leads to the meta dialogue, the meta analysis that was going on, that these things are hilarious and satire is out there in the real world right now. Take it away, Melania.
Predictably, our children will develop deep critical thinking and independent reasoning abilities.
But why?
The AI-powered Plato will boost analytic skills and problem solving and adapt in real time to a student's pace, prior knowledge, and even emotional state. The byproduct, a more well-rounded lifestyle for our children, freeing up time for being with friends, playing sports, and developing interest beyond school. A more complete person. But as discussed yesterday, we must balance our tech optimism with caution. The safety of our next generation is always paramount. Knowledge is the foundation of civilization. But although academia is interesting, business is compelling. For real growth in technology and education, I encourage you to bring the private and public sector worlds together. Yesterday's meeting at the State Department was an impressive showing of how tech innovation is modernizing our communities. It's powerful to be part of our future in the making, particularly with best-in-class companies like Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, X, Palantir, Google, Zoom, and Adobe. Each serves as a catalyst for discovery. We can accelerate civilization's march forward when enterprise delivers innovation, government creates scale, and our capital markets finance the distribution of these emerging technologies. Fostering the future together is built on the theory that efficiencies derived from artificial intelligence will improve various parts.
First off, I want to get back, before we get back to understanding what Plato's philosophies are and why this robot built on the tech of the techno-oligarchic parasitic class, these people who are stealing all of our data, the people not only stealing our data, but it is free. These things are free that we're using, and so our data is not really our own. What are they doing with it? Well, what they're doing is they're creating a digital version of you in the digital realms, in this false reality that is going to then mimic you, and then it's going to create patterns of you, and then it's going to know what you do and be able to create some kind of Minority Report, Philip K. Dick version of you, which then has the ability to see and develop like a true crime style of idea, a pre-crime, if you so to speak. And in this pre-crime era that we're moving into, they'll be able to know exactly who, where, and what you do at all times. Palantir, Meta, OpenAI, and all these things which we use on a daily basis, and is built and is the system, the foundation of the system that we are walking and living in on all the time, is going, and it seems to me, right, the isness of what is real, it seems to me that they are trying to walk us in this lockstep variation of what is going to be real is only what comes through the black box screens, the robots, and the AI systems. And at any time, these things can be changed. It's that Orwellian doublespeak and this new thought style of era. And so when you're doing these things, you have to realize we have to question every bits of information and not be a cynic when we're questioning these things. But we have to understand that how these things are coming to us are being curated like shadows on a wall, let alone Brigitte Macron sitting right next to this person who herself, himself, whatever it is that is sitting right next to Melania, she's a pedophile. She, even if she's not a man, she curated this little boy and was dating him like she was an old person, and he a teacher, and this was a 14-year-old boy. It's fascinating how these things are okay, just like the Epstein list. It's okay. We have robots that are going to teach your youth. So shut up, America. Sit down, sit back, and relax as we curate new data. Change history at a dime if it doesn't follow the globalized one world government order. And if you step outside of these things and you don't reason the way we think you should, we will cut you off from everything that you need, everything that makes us be human. Not only our own souls we're going to cut you off from, but we're going to cut you off from all of the resources that you need to build yourself up into the world. And so you're not needing the government's assistance to live and sustain yourself.
Of society, such as commerce, healthcare, and food security, ultimately lifting all economies. We stand at the turning point because of artificial intelligence, the age of imagination. Humanity has witnessed historic times like this before, during the Industrial Revolution, the dawn of electricity, the race to the moon, and the birth of the internet. This technology may reset the modern world order and rebalance power. Your children must be prepared to ascend with fire this framework. Our coalition can make this vision real by supporting concrete initiatives that equip young people with the skills they need, invest, expand access, and foster new opportunity. America, we are obligated to ensure that our children become the most technologically fluent and highly educated generation in the world. In doing so, the United States will secure long-term and economic superiority. This will drive GDP expansion, attack global investment, and put our nation in control of arguably the most important asset in the future, intellectual property.
So what's going on is she's talking about these different levels of the one nation is what I'm saying, and she speaks of one nation. And when you get one nation, she's of the United States, the first lady of the United States, and yet she has all of the other UN nations around her, right? 40 other first ladies, 40 other nations telling us about how this robot is going to be put in not only our homes as in most likely the homes of all of us here, but it's also going to the homes of probably third world countries, as well as all the other nations in the world, so we can tell them exactly what we want them to think. And so what I was saying is that this is true doublespeak, the ambiguity of language, euphemism, and this obscurity, so we can create new think and new thought. And then that new thought is going to supplant in the higher terminology of what the highest level of abstraction of what a nation means and learning. And so it's fascinating that she doesn't speak of what nation. She's got the United States logo in front of her, but she's talking with all these other leaders. And so I want to reinstate this idea of the one nation is the globalized one world order that they're creating, which is why we're attacking all countries who are not in the Federal Reserve. They're not being controlled by the Bank of International Settlements, as well as being controlled by our own military industrial complex and the three-letter agencies, all of the three-letter agencies of MI6 and Mossad and the CIA that are going out there trying to take over these places and democratize these places. But not the democracy that means that everyone has the right to vote in their own representatives. No, you will get the representatives that we want you to hear, that we want you to vote for, that we control. Just like we're going to put this robot into your home because we control the information coming out of it. So very fascinating. This sounds wonderful, but let's also know that that's not actually what's going on. So I appreciate all you out there. Again, if you haven't, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. We're doing this together and we're coming out with these all the time. Let's go with more Melania Trump.
Let's inspire our children to build new platforms, create new industries, and optimize production across all sectors, from media and fashion to health and defense. Let's foster the future together. The nations represented in this room reflect great human potential. We are here today to advance ideas and solutions. So let us proceed in the spirit of collaborative dialogue. It is now my pleasure to give a floor to Mrs. Brigitte Macron, the distinguished representative.
Mrs. Brigitte Macron, the distinguished representative, the pedophile Brigitte Macron, who basically builds up this 14-year-old boy because she was the teacher of this 14-year-old boy, and then in this day and age, we're going to make him the president of France. It's beautiful.
Of the French Republic.
In this French Republic, I want us to also understand of how important it is to know about this French Republic. She's going to state right now that she doesn't believe in the First Amendment and our Constitution, and that this speech that they're using needs to be basically you shouldn't be able to speak and do what you want to do in their country. So fascinating enough. Let's end. Let's break this down. So what's really important to break this down is let's build a philosophy. They called it Plato, a robot. They named it Plato. Again, I need everyone to sit with that for a second, because I do not think people understand what they're doing here, and that's why there's a bunch of people who are breaking this down out there. But I don't really think they're breaking it down in a way so we understand the philosophy of Plato. Plato looked at the physical world as a mere representation, not as the thing that is real. This is mimesis. It's a representation of something higher. Plato believed in the forms. Everything you sense, everything your senses are telling you isn't real. It's a copy. The chair that you're sitting in, the books that you read, the trees that are outside, these things are mere forms of the real thing. The beauty you see in the faces of others is not true beauty. It is but a reflection of the actual beauty out there. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to build these things up, and they're trying to remove our real understanding and the sensation of what we actually know, is that there is something that is real and true, an objective truth out in the world. Plato called it the forms, and I think that's really important. And instead of that, we're getting a robot, which is a representation of a human figure, which is a representation of the good out there in the world. And so what the robot is going to tell you is it's going to tell you its interpretation of what this classical literature is out there. So let's say that you want to teach your child about Homer and the Iliad and the Odyssey. And I think it's really important to know when we're getting these things, we're already getting translations of ancient Greek, or if you're talking about Dante's Inferno, translations of Latin. And so we must get that. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to authors and writers and philosophers and scholars who are really translating it as purely as possible. So these translations are really important. And what I'm saying to you right now is why it's so important is because of the inversion of reality is coming faster and faster and faster as information speeds up more and more and more and more. And so to go back, what we're getting, let's repeat this. A robot comes down White House, the White House, like the aisles. Melania Trump walks with the robot. The robot comes out in front and then has a feminine voice, which, yes, the robot actually spoke cleaner English than our first lady does. Not a hit on her. She's not, she doesn't speak English very well. She's not, born and bred in America. That's fine. She does the best she can. She is but a mere puppet. She herself is a representation of somebody else's information, somebody else's agenda that she's trying to push. And she's pushing it, yes, because she's the first lady of the Donald, but they have other people that they're listening to. You can't imagine that Donald Trump and his cabinet and everybody in the White House are the real people in charge here, because they are just taking orders. So who told them to put the robot into the White House, and that we're going to then give this to people so that we can change the world for the better? Now let's see here. How could this be changed for the world for the better? Well, it could if we actually all had the ability to be putting information into the techno-oligarchical systems information. But what we're getting is they're going to take what they want to push. And so, yes, Plato had his noble lie, which was really important for the public to stay harmonious, because what the masses, democracy and the masses don't really understand and can't truly choose for themselves. Why? Because they don't have the ability to tap into the forms. They haven't broke themselves free from the cave. And I think that's where the cave comes in. And the allegory of the cave is the most important thing here, is that the prisoners that are locked against and chained against the wall behind them are seeing shadows on the wall. The shadows on the wall are mere impressions and sensations that we're receiving at all times, but that's all they are, shadows on the wall. We are getting information that is not the real thing, and that there are people who are trying to tell us what those shadows on the wall are. That's the people behind us as we're trapped on the wall, chained to the wall, looking at the shadows. The shadows are being cast by a flame. The flame isn't the real flame, the real sun, the real good, the goodness, the authentic thing, the forms that we're getting into. The philosopher kings, the people who have seen the forms and come back, the initiates who have tapped into the higher aspects of human potential and the highest levels of virtues, are truly trying to then, who go back into the cave, and what they do is then they formulate this society. The cave is the society. And I think that's really important to know, that we are all, even talking right now, from this mimesis, this representation, this fake Plato, right? You're getting a fake Plato giving us fake education, because education is not given to us by something that doesn't have an intimate aspect to it. You cannot learn from something that is a mechanical, right? That's why it's hard to learn straight up from the internet or just reading something. You need to be taught it from somebody who actually understands it. Otherwise, we could have a misstep in understanding something as it's happening. It needs to be interfaced through an intimate experience. That's why we learn best through failing, right? If we fail, then we can understand why we failed, and we can then learn something new. And so it goes back into, let's transition from the mimesis into the cave. Plato already showed us what this looks like, what the Dark Republic looks like. 2,400 years ago, he drew the picture. He gave us the prisoners chained to the wall, facing these shadows that are cast by the puppeteers that they cannot see. It's a fire behind them. The prisoners believe that the shadows are a reality. Just like we believe that these people who may not have a great education already, as in young people and parents who are working really hard, and instead of, all right, paying teachers, we're not going to pay teachers. We're going just to place a robot that most people won't be able to afford. So what it's going to be government given. The one world nation is going to give us these educators, which our own educators are already taking their indoctrination from books that was created by the Maxwell Foundation, right? The Maxwells. Or have we heard that? Maybe Robert Maxwell, somebody who was a Mossad agent. Interesting enough, fell off a boat. Don't know how he died. He was drunk, fell off the boat, and died. What's that matter? Because Ghislaine Maxwell connected to the Epstein. Epstein's connected to the technocratic oligarchs. And so you get this circle. But what is the one thing we're not getting? The Epstein list. Why not? Well, you got half of it. You don't get the other half because too many people are implicated, and the whole system could crumble if you knew too much information. Go back to then Plato, the robot, giving you the information, just enough information so you can continue the rat race to work and provide for the system that is enslaving you, the Black Iron Prison. So what am I saying? The robot, this inverted, false, dark Republic robot, is another representation of the chthonic, archonic forces that are trying to enslave us at this very moment. And yet you have people protesting on the streets about no kings, right? Of course, we don't want a monarchy ruling above us, but we get that in the oligarchical parasitic system. So instead, we must rise up and become our own kings. So instead of these people going out there and railing against the no king, which that's not what we get, we have an oligarchical system. You got to ask yourself, who is putting on all these protests? Because it's not a ground up. It's not from the bottom up protesting. It's from a top down. These people, all these things are happening. They have slogans. And these slogans are not being created organically by people, but what they're doing is they're being pushed upon us through the TV and telling you exactly how to protest. Instead, the only true protest in the world is to become a philosopher king. And how can you do that when you don't know how first to walk out of the cave? The cave is your living room, your home, the society. The shadows are the robot's curriculum. The puppeteers are whoever's programming the machine. And the chains are gone because they don't need chains anymore. The chains are the phone, the computer, the robots, the information that is being pushed into our brains at all times. And so what I'm telling you, what I'm consistently telling you, and you all may be getting sick of it, but I don't think you should be, because it's important to know that to become free, you must witness the forms. And to witness the forms is to witness the truest, most authentic version of the representations that we're perceiving, like the shadows on the wall. And so first you must understand that these things that are freely given to us are not free. The data that is freely given to you is not free. You are the product. And the corporate technocracy that we're currently living within, it is enslaving you by telling you exactly what to think, what to breathe, what to eat, and how to protest. No kings? No. Become a king, queen. Become a magician. Don't be controlled by the dark sorcerers. Become your own magician so you can understand the manipulation techniques by the system. I think that's really important to know. Become your own magician so you can break free from the spells that are given to us, the language that keeps us in lockstep and controlled. Because if you understand the language, if you understand the symbols and the constant repetitions, then you may no longer protest out there, but you may protest within and become your own Promethean character. When you can become your own Promethean character, you can understand that not only can you rise up from being a slave and a prisoner, but you can walk out and you can become your own philosopher king. That's not what they're telling you. They're telling you that you don't need to do that. The cave has been redesigned to feel like freedom. Melania's language frames this robot as liberation, always patient, always available, adapting to your child's needs. Does that sound like liberation? To understand your passions is to understand your suffering. That's more comfortable than a cave, actually. If you're being fed what to think, feel, eat, listen to, and breathe, you can just be more of a slave. And you can just continually take in the soma, and not the soma that helps enlighten you, like the Kaikion and the illusion mysteries and the different initiation schools. But you can take the soma like in Huxleyan's Brave New World. And you can be a hedonic slave. You can be somebody who is feeding their passions and lower desires instead of standing up and becoming truly free. The question nobody asks in Plato's Allegory is, who are the puppeteers? Who is behind the wall? Who benefits from keeping the prisoners watching the shadows? That question applies directly here, right now. Who is feeding the robot? Plato, the robot. Isn't it fascinating that through time, now Google will just, all the SEO on Google and all the different search engines, when you type in Plato, it may not now come up through time as who? As the great Western philosophical tradition's forefather, the person who helped us understand how to break free from said tyrannical systems. But it will now become the robot and Melania. It'll happen. It'll happen before we even know it. Who programs Plato? Not Socrates. It's not going to be Plato's different teachers that he went to, Egypt, the Orphic mystery traditions, Pythagoras. all of these different places that helped him understand the different levels of abstraction and to break free in the great knowledge of knowing thyself? What is the geometries? Lest thee know geometry, it cannot enter into the academy. What does that mean? Unless you understand that there are basic understandings of the objective world that we must understand, then we can truly understand that these things are but mere reflections. And if we don't understand that they're mere reflections, but we take them as real, whatever real means, then we will supplant the map for the territory and we will mistake the menu for the meal. And we'll all of a sudden start eating fake things at all times. So it's going to adapt to your emotional states. We need to understand that. If it adapts to your emotional states, all great teachers helped me understand my own worldviews and perceptions may be incorrect, and that I need to question the basic foundation of my very existence. Not that I may not exist, because that's foolish. Of course I do. I'm right here, right now. As Heidegger calls it, thrownness. I am in the world. I am being in the world at all times, vying to look towards the horizon. And as I can do that, I can understand that the phenomena that I am perceiving is but a mere appearance. And if it's in a mere appearance, then there must be something that is being reflected towards my perceiving apparatus, my nervous system, this body-mind syzygy, where I have that spark of divinity within, where I can truly try to understand when talking heads like the First Lady and like the nation's first ladies, which are mere soldiers for the Black Iron Prison, that then I can understand that that's not true learning, because I'm only then learning what the state wants me to learn. And I understand that in the Republic, there will be some people who are stating how, well, the Republic's really trying to tell you that it's okay for the state to tell you exactly what to think, what to feel, what to breathe, and who to fight out in the world. Well, I think that maybe we're perceiving and reading the Republic maybe not in the correct way. Because what I think is that this beautiful poetic dialogue is trying to teach us how to think in this contradictory nature. And when those contradictions don't line up to equate to something that seems and feels true through a priori reasoning, that then all of a sudden I can question and truly understand and philosophize. I can then do what philosophy means. The first foundation of philosophy is wonder. I must be able to wonder. And how can you do that? You do that with somebody else there with you, being able to have a dialogue with you, to be able to see and feel and empathize and be compassionate towards somebody that may be struggling. And then in that moment, they can choose to not do certain things, like say, just spoon feed you information, but they can choose to speak in metaphor, in myth, in analogy, in simile, in all of these different ways of helping each person suffer through the experience so that they can truly learn through the experience. And you're right, the image is but a mere illusion, because it is just that. Phenomena means appearance. It is appearing to us as something. And that something is then understood through our own perception and through the things that we've learned in the past and our genetics and our DNA and the social constructs at that time. Plato said it in the Republic. Education is not pouring knowledge into an empty vessel, like it sounds like this inverted Plato would do, this robot. But it is what they call a pedagoge, a turning of the soul. It makes the soul churn. It makes it have to think for itself and question at all times, and then we can break free. And it happens when you encounter another mind that has been somewhere that you have not. But that robot, that mere mechanistic vessel, entraps us in this Cartesian dualism where the mind and the body are separate. That's not actually how we interact with the world. We interact with the world through intimate understanding of things, through, again, struggling through things, through the passions, through the eros. A mind that carries its own life, its own struggles again, and its own levels of understanding so it can break free from those things. That is what transmits knowledge at the deepest level. That is how we create presence. The best ways I've learned in my own philosophical training is when things are unfolded and unpacked together. When we're learning about such heavy subjects like classical literature, like reading Dante and Milton, and truly asking, what do these things mean? What does it mean to me? What did it mean to the world at that time? And in those things, we can also see levels of contradiction through our own teachers. And then we can question it ourselves. And then we can take it away and we can walk in the world. And we can come back and we can ask our teacher, hey, what do you mean by this? And then that teacher can, in the moment, spontaneously react. And in reacting, we together can have a learning experience, because a teacher is somebody who is learning along with the student on a different level, like a spiral. It's not a straight line. And these things aren't separate. These aren't separate substances. These are commingled eros, this commingling of higher levels of knowledge. This is the passionate. This is moving from one person to another. It's the oldest form of education on the earth. It's the true levels of the dialogue and the dialectic. It predates every institution, every technology, every system. And they want to replace it with a machine. And that machine is going to read your child's face, and it's going to adjust on the fly. But how can it do it if it doesn't have a soul? How can you learn from something that isn't also like you? How can you care for something? And how can you care about a subject if that same subject doesn't have? We all know what it's like to watch, for instance, the original Lion King worked really well because the animators knew how to mimic the animation through the human experience and through human facial structures. But when we got the new Lion King in CGI, it was trash. Why was it trash? Because the faces didn't mimic the human experience and it looked fake. And so if something looks fake, you're not truly going to learn. It will never sync with the nervous system because it's on different levels of abstraction. Does that make sense? And again, we must listen to the language. Wisdom is learned through experience and suffering. It's taking knowledge and unfolding it through time and being able to have truth reveal itself to you. The examined life, the unexamined life is not worth living. This isn't about raising children up so they can become their own philosopher kings. This is about pushing them down to be a number and a soldier for a nation that doesn't care about them. This is about becoming a product, to be optimized for a level of intellectual property. You become an intellectual property yourself, just the number, just like your social security number. Plato's Republic, again, was about justice and asking, what does it mean to live a just life? It's about organizing a society so that the wisest lead us and the whole community moves towards the good together. But if you have a sick community, if the individual is sick and unharmonized within the tripartness of the human person, the tripart soul, then the republic will be sick. And then we get a sick community and we have a sick state. This is an inversion of reality. Instead of philosopher kings leading the many towards the truth, the state sends a machine into your home to define truth for you. This is not a republic. This is the administration of shadows. 40 nations were in that room, right? 40 nations were in that room, representing from over 40 different countries, watching her pitch this machine that is being pushed to us by Palantir, by Facebook, by Meta, right? That's Facebook, by OpenAI, and by a bunch of other places that are controlling the system and building it up so you don't have to think for yourself. And if everyone gets a shared curriculum, then no one has the ability to think outside that curriculum. And if everyone gets a shared set of assumptions about what counts as knowledge, when one system defines what children across the planet are taught, that's not education reform. That's not looking for the best of individuals. That is a global scale information architecture, a global scale information architecture, a single cave built for an entire system. Again, Plato's Republic, Plato's philosophy, spoken through the words of Socrates, were about conversation, an intimate conversation where you ask question after question to get to an understanding that we don't know what we're talking about, that we hold assumptions that actually don't hold up under scrutiny. And if these assumptions don't hold up under scrutiny, if we're not questioning our worldviews and our perceptions, then we are just faking it the whole way through. And then you are becoming hollow. And then you are repeating things. You are parroting something else from somebody else. I think it's really important that we all know that, and that we don't just parrot information from, say, the White House or from either side of the spectrum of media. And we're not parroting what the drama on the TV is telling us about what is truth and what is real. But we understand through time and through asking real questions. What does it mean to be a pious individual, right? Does it mean that you're pious if you are praying before you go out into the White House interview room, where we are telling you that this country is a Judeo-Christian country, when actually in the First Amendment it says that that's not actually what this country is about? This isn't a Judeo-Christian country. This is a country built upon the freedom of choice, the freedom of religion and of speech and of choosing to be you. It's a melting pot. It's the new Atlantis, and it was built upon those things. And so, please, these are the real protests, and these are the real questions that need to be asked. And it's not me telling you that. These are the things that spark my own levels of passion. And when I see it, I scoff and I think, are you kidding me? Did you really just name a robot Plato when Plato would detest that on every level? Plato was the philosopher who taught us how to become philosopher kings, how to truly be wise and be just, and how to live the virtuous life, how to integrate the mythological life with the philosophical, the rational, and how to choose to live in the higher levels of reason, to live through the logos, that spark of the divine that comes out of us all. I think these are really important questions they ask. And I really appreciate everybody out there. Because once we understand that they're going to try to give us what we're supposed to think, why going to war is important, and why sending our children to war is important, and why once after this war is done, there will be another and another and another. And it seems to be, it's a direct reflection of the war that we're facing within our own soul. That we're fighting to be free when you already are. You just have to choose the hardest path. And that is the Negredo. That is the alchemical path. That is what Joseph Campbell calls the call to adventure. To sacrifice that who you are for that which you can become. And when you go on the path of becoming, you can fall into that path of being. And then it's not a path anymore. You understand that the dualistic understanding of reality leads into the non-dual thinking of just a pure presence. And that passion, that suffering is actually exactly what we need to break ourselves free from that primate psychology, those lower four circuits of the 8 circuits of consciousness that Timothy Leary and Robert Anton Wilson were expressing. They were expressing how to be more, how to be human. It's almost as if each one of us needs to go through our own Gom Jabbar test to truly see if you're willing to just be stuck in the trap and cower to bite your own hand off and run away, or if you are going to wait, be patient, go through the suffering. And then when that person who laid that trap for you, what you do is you confront them. You confront them with higher levels of reason, with true questioning, and with an authentic experience. These things are going to keep coming, and the brainwashing is going to continue every day because we're continually looking at our phones, right? We all do it. You look for the news and you want to see what is going on. You hope to whoever it is you hope to, that you're going to be told the truth. But you must understand that the truth is not going to be given to you like a noun. You can't just pick it up and then hold it. That's not how truth works. Truth unfolds through the process of understanding, through using your a priori reasoning, through an a posteriori experience, through understanding the empirical. And through understanding the empirical, we can step up into the rational. And once we understand the rational, we can break ourselves free from those chains of bondage, from the phones that are connected, which now are actually the electromagnetic non-native waves that are all around us, holding our consciousness down. And then we can break ourselves free from that, and we can ascend to a higher level. We can transmute ourselves and then transcend our current experience. And when we do that, we can see things as they are, but mere shadows on the wall. And then what you do is you walk yourself out of the cave and into the beautiful, into the good. And once the good, the sun, once that representation of the good, the sun, sets, which it will, then we can see things. We can see the celestial beauty. And then what we must do is we must then walk back into the cave, and it's going to be hard. And then we have the ability to use our Socratic method and the dialogue and start asking questions, not telling people, but asking, what do you mean by Plato? Why is the robot called Plato again? What is it going to try to teach us? Who's programming Plato? OpenAI is programming Plato? Okay, so if OpenAI is programming this, where's OpenAI getting their information? Is that information now being curated? And if that information is being curated, where are you getting the translations for this great classical literature and the histories of the world, the philosophies of the world, the Western history of philosophy? Is it going to be also helping us understand the continental philosophers or just analytic philosophers? Are we going to understand the scientific material worldview as well as the Western esoteric tradition, the worldview of the Romantics, the worldview of the Hellenized world where we started to understand the Neoplatonic thinkers? What does the monad mean? Or does it only mean what the nation wants it to mean? And then can I question the robot and will it actually give me a true answer? We're already seeing how AI is lying to us and hallucinating. And what is it hallucinating for? Is it because it just doesn't have the answers? And if it doesn't have the answers, does that mean that the data that's out there and the knowledge that is out there isn't knowledge at all, but it's just information? And if it's just information, how can I integrate that into my own person so I can not just have information, but I can make it into knowledge, and through my experience I can then transmute that into wisdom. And then from wisdom I can again question what it means for the just. Is this a just war? Is it a just thing to go out and try to democratize the world? And is it just to put a robot into every home instead of just being able to pay our teachers and to be able to have a book that's not telling us what history is, but having us and helping from multiple angles, from all aspects, to be like, hey, what do you think happened here? And here's the data, and here's the evidence. Now I want you to choose, and I want you to make sure that the choice is for the highest good. And whatever that means, we don't know what it means, but you know what it means when harmony happens, because you get that small little feeling in the back of your head that this is actually right, that it has a level of morality to it for all humans to live the best life. And so I think these things are important, and they're just going to keep happening. And I think these conversations are important. A machine bearing his name, Plato, is designed to eliminate the encounter entirely between people. That this is not the future of education. This is a future of a deeper into indoctrination. And so you need to ask yourself, are you being indoctrinated to somebody else's thoughts, or are you actually having your own? So today, I want you to just look at yourself and look at the information coming through and think, what are the questions that the prisoner on the wall never asks? What is the questions of the NPCs that they never truly break free into question? Who is behind the wall that we're all trapped on? And are they gaining anything by keeping you looking at the shadows? That's where it is. That's what we're doing. I, again, thank you to everyone out there who listens to this. This came up on my feed, just like all things come up on my feed. Like we're all getting it all times, and we see it and we're like, oh, we scoff at it, or we'll go, oh, that's interesting. Why is it interesting? Well, it's interesting because Plato was a real person. He actually had real work. And I think it's really important that we all go back to it. Instead of getting your information from a bunch of other people, even from me, I think you should go to the Republic and read it. Read Plato's great works, read Aristotle, read classical literature like Dante and John Milton, and read the Romantics. Read everything you can get your hands on. Write things down. Go through your mind. Unshackle your mind so you can see things for as they are. And what they are, I cannot tell you. That is for your own experience. But I can tell you that I'm going to come here and we're just going to continue asking more questions. And hopefully we can see the signs and the symbols and the metaphors that lie underneath this ocean of chaos that we're trying to navigate. Because if you're not navigating it yourself, somebody else is navigating it for you. Please, I appreciate everybody, all of you out there. And I think that these times are not as bad as some may want us to think. And what I mean by that is that there is beauty in the world, and that there is beauty in nature. And in that nature, we can see the reflection of the good in its most harmonious forms. And when we witness the beauty of nature, we can also witness the beauty of our own nature. And when we see things that are dissonant, destructive, and that cause our own nervous systems to kind of be like, that's weird, I think those are the things that we must truly look at. Just like we must look at the shadows on the wall and question them. Because it is in the darkest aspects of ourself where the truest of gold lies. And when we can bring that gold, bring that darkness, bring the light to the darkness. Not that we're supposed to bring the good down into the cave, because that will not happen. But we can bring what we learned, bring the ability to question these things into the cave. And hopefully we've witnessed enough of the forms to not fall back asleep. So again, if you haven't already, make sure, subscribe, like, and share so we can continue this journey together. I appreciate every single one of you out there. Thank you for listening to me on this fine Monday. And I hope if you need anything, you just reach out. We're going to do it all together. We're in this together. This is a community of like-minded individuals. And if we're not like-minded, that's fine too. We will become like-minded. As in, there are many vehicles on the path to the divine, and we will do it together. So again, thank you. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Good night.